Hey everyone, this is Tosin with Focus Fire, bringing you a beginner guide, and this is about team levels and experience. The goal here at Focus Fire, of course, is to get all the information into the players' hands so they can improve their game a bit and kick a little more ass. So, we'll have a lot of general guides, but as well as some beginner guides for newer players. So whether you're brand new or you haven't even touched the game yet and you're looking to get into it, this should help alleviate having teammates rage typing at you in the middle of the game, of course, if you are new and don't know all the details of every mechanic yet. So, this one is about breaking down team levels and experience so you fully understand how it works and what you can do to contribute to your team to the max. First off, if you're watching this video and you haven't actually even played the game yet or you know virtually nothing about it, experience is shared across the whole team, so you level up together, and levels are shown at the top of your screen. So you and your teammates are always exactly the same level. So there are several ways of gaining experience for your team, and the first one is of course killing enemy minions. Unlike similar games to Heroes of the Storm, you do not have to last hit minions in this game. You just have to have one of your teammates needs to be within the general area, within like half a screen distance roughly, of the minions that die. So you don't even have to kill them yourself. If they die to your minions or your towers or something, as long as you're in the general area, you will soak up that experience for your team. The next way, of course, is killing enemy players. Doesn't matter who kills the enemy player, your entire team will benefit with a pretty nice chunk of experience. The next method is killing neutral camps or mercenaries, but you don't get a lot of experience for this. It's very little, so you don't get merc camps for the XP, you get it for pressure on the map, you know, pushing enemy lanes out and stuff like that. However, they may help you push a lane far enough to take towers or forts, which will give you a lot of experience, which brings me to the next one, towers and forts. Destroying enemy towers and forts actually grants your team a large amount of XP, so really smart tactic if you are behind. Maybe your team died, you know, twice as much as the enemy team and they're ahead a level or so. A really good way to catch up is to try to avoid confrontation with the enemy and destroy towers and forts, which will give you big chunks of XP and help you catch up so you can, you know, fight on even grounds. Alright, now I'm going to give you a quick little demonstration of the significance of level differences in combat and character strength. This is an example of damage at even level. As you can see, we're clearly just completely even at level 1. And remember, not only basic attack damage scales with level, but your health, all of your ability damage, everything scales with level. Now here's an example of being only one level ahead. Watch the difference of just being one level ahead. That is a big difference. Instead of evenly killing each other, I'm killing them by a pretty significant amount. Now here's an example of being 2 levels apart. Now, when it comes to just basic attacking, it's not going to seem like a gigantic difference from being 1 level apart. But you have to remember that everybody on the enemy team, if they're 2 levels ahead, are going to be this much stronger than each of you. So multiply that difference by 5 players, and that's a pretty giant advantage. So as you can see, soaking experience and staying at least on the same level as your opponents, if not ahead, is a giant factor. Now, of course, levels give you better stats, so of course you're going to do more damage and have more health and all that, but that is not the biggest factor either. I think the biggest factor is when you unlock talents before the enemy team. You get big power spikes when you unlock new talents. So if you don't already know, you unlock talents at level 4, 7, 10 is when you get your heroic abilities, and then 13, 16, and 20. So at all of these level points is a huge difference in power. So, you know, being level 5 versus level 6 is not a big deal because at least everybody has the same amount of talents. But being level 6 versus level 7 is quite a bit bigger than 5 versus 6 because all the people that hit level 7, the entire team, has unlocked a new tier of talents. And that gives them a big advantage even if it's only a 1 level difference. Now, of course, being behind in levels a little bit, you know, 1 or 2 levels behind, doesn't mean that you have to avoid fighting at all costs and only soak. It just means you have to be more careful because they have an advantage, which means you have to look for advantageous situations. For instance, like ganking. Getting a nice 1v2 or 1v3 is a good way to get a nice chunk of experience to help your team catch back up when you're behind. You don't always have to fight an even fight. It is totally possible to win a 1v1 if you're 1 or 2 levels behind, but it's really hard, and it totally depends on the hero matchup, but generally speaking, it's not a good idea to try that. Your best bet is to go for ganks and get advantages, or catch somebody when they're, you know, low on health or something. You know, if you're a level or 2 down, but you catch somebody farming a merc camp at half health, well, you can kill them because you already have an advantage in health at that point. Another thing to look out for is specifically level 10. oftentimes if the enemy team hits level 10 before you, you do not want to have a direct fight because they have their heroic abilities and you don't, and that's a giant advantage. So always keep an eye out for that. And on the flip side, if you hit level 10 before the enemy, it's a good idea to try to force a team fight when you have that huge ability advantage. So try to do that if you can. Alright, now that you know how it works, I'm going to show you some pointers of how you can maximize your contribution to the team and be really efficient with where you place yourself to soak experience at any given time. Now notice the enemy team is getting ahead of us in experience, and they're actually going to hit level 4 before us. So let's look at the minimap and figure out how this happened. At some point, somebody left the bottom lane, so we got behind because we missed a little XP soak on the bottom lane and they didn't. This could just mean that the Vala down there pushed the wave and cleared all the minions, and now we still have an entire enemy wave pushing to our wall. So, if the enemy wave pushes up to our tower, we can still catch that experience before it's gone. As long as our Tychus makes it down there in time, he could soak that whole wave of experience once it hits the wall, and you can catch that back up. So sometimes it'll be deceiving, and you'll think, wow, we're quite a bit behind right here. But sometimes it's just a delayed soak that has to happen because they pushed the lane harder than your team did. However, that's not always the case, so it's your job as well as your teammates' job to always look at the map. It is super important to keep an eye on the minimap at all times that you can. Of course, it's hard sometimes to do that when you're fighting and stuff like that, but generally speaking, try to look how your team is spreading out. If you have 3 people in top lane and there's nobody soaking mid lane, well, one of those people top lane should definitely go soak the middle lane, especially if they have somebody soaking the middle lane, so you can at least stay even. The only time there should be an exception to the rule of soaking is if there's really important objectives to go for, or like maybe your team is caught in a battle and you can go help them win that team fight and kill enemy players. Well, that will make up for experience that you lost soaking, and the enemy team will have dead players, which means they're going to be soaking less lanes as well. So it is a priority system, and you have to learn to feel it out and make the right decisions. And late game, perfectly soaking, if you're not behind, becomes less important because it becomes more about objectives and team fighting late game, so it's okay. You'll make up for the experience and kills if your team is winning. As you can see, we were behind earlier, but now we are currently 2 levels ahead, or about to be, 1.5 levels ahead. So this is a pretty big advantage, and we're definitely not soaking all lanes right now. But that's okay, because sometimes the priority shifts. We won a team fight, and got a huge chunk of experience from killing enemy players, and we get objectives and kill towers and further our lead. Now we have a solid 2-level lead. So you don't have to be glued to a lane all game. You can definitely make good judgment calls, and that comes with experience, of course, but you can make good judgment calls of when to leave the lane and roam and go for ganks, go for objectives, merc camps, stuff like that. But as you can see, there are plenty of ways to gain experience and either catch up or totally pass up the enemy team in levels. And if it wasn't already obvious, getting giant level leads is by far the easiest way to win games. Anyway, that is it for this beginner guide on team levels and experience. I hope any new players coming into this awesome game have a little bit more clarity after watching this as to how it works. Don't forget to share this guide with your friends, especially the new ones, so they can get a nice head start in the action. And don't forget to subscribe to Focus Fire for more Heroes of the Storm guides and other related videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.